September 11th, 1697. Dawn breaks over the Tisa River, Hungary. Prince Eugene of Savoy sits on his horse on a hillside 3 miles from the river crossing. He's been awake for 36 hours straight. His uniform is covered in road dust, his eyes are bloodshot, but his mind is sharp, calculating. In the valley below, 80,000 Ottoman soldiers are trapped in the most vulnerable position an army can occupy. Half their force is on the eastern bank, setting up defensive positions. Tents arranged in geometric patterns, artillery pieces being positioned. Half is still crossing on the western bank. A massive camp of soldiers, wagons, civilians, supplies, all connected by a single pontoon bridge swaying in the current. They're completely exposed, vulnerable, divided. This is the moment Eugene has been waiting 14 years for. He turns to his commanders, his staff officers, men who haven't slept either, men who think he's insane for what he's about to order. His voice is calm, almost casual, like he's ordering breakfast. We attack, now. The man giving this order was rejected by the French army just 14 years ago. Too small, too weak, not fit for military service. The Sun King himself, Louis XIV, the most powerful monarch in Europe, looked at him and said no. But that rejection created the Ottoman Empire's worst nightmare. A general who studied their every move, who spent 14 years learning everything about them, who waited patiently for the perfect moment, who was about to destroy the largest invasion force Europe had seen in decades. In 90 minutes, this is the Battle of Zenta. 50,000 exhausted Austrians against 80,000 Ottomans who think they're safe. The largest Ottoman army to invade Europe since the siege of Vienna 14 years earlier. They're marching on Habsburg territory. They're going to reclaim everything they lost. Hungary, Croatia, Transylvania. They're going to break Europe's resistance once and for all. Sultan Mustafa II himself leads them. The Sultan, commanding personally. His personal banner flies over the eastern camp, visible for miles. But they made one fatal mistake, one assumption that will cost them everything. They assumed Eugene of Savoy would fight like every other European general of the past decade. Cautious, defensive, predictable, wait for reinforcements, fortify positions, avoid decisive engagement, let the Ottomans exhaust themselves through attrition. Eugene doesn't fight like that, never has. And what happens in the next hour and a half will change the balance of power in Europe forever. It will shatter Ottoman military prestige built over centuries. It will make Eugene a legend whose name will be whispered in fear across 3 continents. It will end centuries of Ottoman expansion into Europe. But it starts 24 hours earlier, in a dusty military headquarters, with a decision that seems insane to everyone around him. September 10th, Austrian military headquarters. Mid-afternoon, the heat is oppressive. Eugene's command tent smells of sweat, leather, dust. Maps cover every available surface. His scouts arrive. 3 horses lathered. They've been riding for 6 hours straight to bring this news. The Ottoman army is crossing the Tisa River at Zenta, slowly, methodically, using a single pontoon bridge. Eugene's senior officers gather around the main map table, experienced men, veterans of a dozen campaigns. Calculate distances. They see opportunity. Standard raiding tactics. We can harass them, one suggests. Pick off stragglers, make the crossing difficult, capture some supply wagons, force them to deploy additional guards. Eugene says nothing. He's staring at the map. His finger traces lines, distances, timing. 40 miles through the night. Can it be done? His mind runs calculations, march speed, rest stops, artillery movement, deployment time. He sees something else entirely, something nobody else in the room understands yet. He sees total annihilation. His chief of staff, a careful man who's kept Eugene alive through 5 campaigns. Sir, if we move quickly, we could be in position to raid by tomorrow evening. Capture supplies, maybe an artillery piece or 2. Force them to slow the crossing. Eugene shakes his head, still staring at the map. No, sir, we're not raiding. The room goes quiet. Officers exchange glances. What else would they do? The Ottoman army is massive, 80,000 soldiers. You don't engage that directly unless you're suicidal. But to understand why Eugene sees what others don't, you need to understand how he became a general in the first place. how a rejected French nobleman became Austria's supreme commander. Because everything about his rise defies logic, defies convention, defies probability. Paris, the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. The palace gleams with wealth and power, gold leaf everywhere, mirrors reflecting candlelight into infinity, the center of European civilization, the court of the Sun King. Thin, not particularly impressive physically, but he's sharp, quick-minded. He speaks 5 languages fluently: French, Italian, German, Latin, some Turkish. He studied military tactics, read every treatise he could find. Caesar, Alexander, the great commanders of history. He's qualified for command. Son of Prince Eugene Maurice of Savoy Carignano and Olympia Mancini, a French aristocrat with connections deep in Louis XIV's court. He should have every advantage. Every door should open for him. He wants to serve in Louis XIV's army. It's the most prestigious military force in Europe. 40,000. The best equipment, the best training. The Sun King leads armies personally, wins victories. Is where glory is made, where nobles prove their worth, where careers are built. Eugene applies for a command, a cavalry regiment. The official reason? Eugene is physically unsuitable, too short, barely 5.5 feet tall, too frail, weak constitution. Not the image France wants in its officer corps. France needs tall, strong men, men who look like warriors. The real reason? Politics, poison, scandal, palace intrigue at its ugliest. Eugene's mother had been caught in a conspiracy involving poison at the French court. The affair of the poisons, accusations of murder, plots against the king's favorites, black masses, witchcraft. Whether she was guilty or not doesn't matter anymore. The accusations stick. The family name is toxic. Eugene stands in the antechamber after the rejection. Courtiers avoid his eyes. His humiliation is complete, public, permanent. He's devastated. His entire life planned around military service. Since childhood he dreamed of commanding armies, of winning battles, of making his name legendary. All of it gone in a single word. No. Then something shifts inside him. Devastation becomes fury, white-hot rage that he carefully, meticulously controls. Fury becomes calculation. Cold, precise, dangerous. If France won't have him, he'll find someone who will. Someone fighting France's enemies. Someone who will give him the chance to make Louis XIV regret this decision every day for the rest of his life. He makes his choice. Austria, the Holy Roman Empire. And specifically, he chooses to fight the one enemy that terrifies all of Europe. The enemy that has been expanding for 4 centuries. The enemy that nearly conquered Vienna just 2 years earlier. The Ottoman Empire, late summer. Eugene arrives in Vienna just as 300,000 Ottoman soldiers are besieging the city, the largest army ever assembled by the empire, perhaps the largest army assembled by anyone in European history. The city is on the verge of collapse. Supplies running dangerously low, walls crumbling under constant bombardment, mines being dug under the fortifications. Relief forces are days away, maybe too late. The Austrians give Eugene a commission, minor rank, a cavalry regiment, 300 men, nothing prestigious. He's an outsider, a French exile. But Eugene isn't looking for prestige yet. He's looking to learn, to study, to understand his enemy. The siege breaks when Polish and Austrian relief forces arrive. The Battle of Vienna becomes a turning point. The largest cavalry charge in history, 20,000 horsemen crashing into Ottoman positions. Eugene fights his first taste of combat against the Ottomans. He watches everything: how the Ottomans deploy, how they react to flanking maneuvers, how their massive numbers become a liability in close terrain, how their cavalry, devastating in open fields, struggles when terrain is broken. He takes mental notes. Everything. For the next 14 years, Eugene fights the Ottomans relentlessly. Battle after battle, campaign after campaign. He's obsessed, single-minded. Other officers pursue political connections, court appointments, comfortable positions. Eugene pursues knowledge. Siege of Buda. Eugene watches Ottoman siege tactics up close. How they dig trenches, how they position artillery, how they manage how they coordinate between different units. The chain of command. the decision-making process. He learns that Ottoman commanders are often politically appointed, sons of viziers, court favorites, men who earned their positions through family connections, not tactical brilliance. They follow doctrine rigidly, predictably. Eugene commands a cavalry wing, watches how Ottoman cavalry operates in open terrain. Devastating, fast, well-coordinated, 10,000 horsemen moving like a single organism. But he also sees the weaknesses. They struggle with combined arms coordination. Artillery and cavalry don't work together effectively. When the cavalry creates gaps, infantry is often treated as secondary, expendable, poorly equipped compared to the cavalry. Battle of Lugos. A small engagement, only 5,000 soldiers on each side. But Eugene learns crucial lessons about Ottoman command structure. When the local commander is killed, the units don't know who to follow. Chaos. He files this away. Target the commanders first, siege of Nis. Eugene participates in the siege. Watches Ottoman relief forces try to break through. They're predictable. Attack at dawn, always dawn. Follow the same approach routes, same tactics. Tactical doctrines written by long-dead generals that current commanders follow religiously. They don't adapt, don't innovate, just follow the book. Battle of Zenta. Eugene sees Ottoman artillery up close, impressive, huge cannons that can destroy fortress walls, but slow to reposition. Don't move guns during battle. Another weakness noted. The Danube campaigns. Months of running battles along the river. Eugene learns Ottoman logistics intimately, how they supply armies, where they build depots, how they protect supply lines. Most importantly, he learns they're overextended. Cut those lines far enough forward, the army starves within weeks. Each engagement is a lesson. Each battle adds to his understanding. Eugene studies everything obsessively. He learns that Ottoman armies are massive but logistically fragile. Their supply lines stretch for hundreds of miles. Cut those lines. He learns that their cavalry, while devastating in open terrain with room to maneuver, struggles in broken ground, in forests where they can't form proper lines, in mountains where the terrain favors defenders. He learns their patterns, march routes that follow the same roads their armies have used for centuries. River crossing procedures that never vary, camp layouts that follow rigid geometric patterns, supply schedules as predictable as clockwork, and most importantly, he learns that they're arrogant. Centuries of expansion create complacency, overconfidence. They assume European forces will fight defensively. Let winter and disease do the work. They don't expect aggression, don't plan for it, don't prepare for it. By 1697, Eugene is different from every other European general. He's 34 years old, young for supreme command. But he's learned more about the Ottomans in 14 years than most generals learn in their entire careers. He doesn't wait for the perfect conditions, doesn't fight defensive campaigns, doesn't give the enemy time to consolidate, doesn't follow the cautious, conservative playbook that has defined European warfare for decades. He attacks, always attacks, aggressive, fast, unexpected. When Austria needs a new supreme commander for the war against the Ottomans in 1697, the choice is obvious. Eugene's record speaks for itself. 16 major engagements over 14 years, 14 victories, 2 tactical retreats that saved his forces from annihilation when defeat seemed certain. He's a winner. More importantly, he's a survivor. The Holy Roman Emperor gives him one mission, one objective: stop the Ottoman invasion of 1697. The Ottomans are sending their largest army in years, 80,000 soldiers under Sultan Mustafa II himself. Not a vizier, not a general. The Sultan, personal command. They're going to reclaim Hungary. They're going to restore Ottoman dominance in the Balkans. Make Europe remember who the true power is, who has been the dominant force for 4 centuries. Eugene has 50,000 men, outnumbered by a significant margin, outgunned. Every military advisor tells him to fight defensively, fortify the major, hold Vienna, wait for the Ottomans to exhaust themselves, let winter do the work, let disease thin their ranks, let supply problems weaken them. Standard European tactics. But Eugene has been waiting 14 years for this exact moment, for the Ottomans to make one critical mistake, to give him one opening, one perfect opportunity to demonstrate everything he's learned, everything he's studied, everything he knows. And on September 10th, 1697, in a dusty command tent, his scouts bring news that makes his pulse quicken. They're crossing a river, using one bridge, splitting their army. Eugene sees September 10th, late morning. The sun beats down on the river valley. Eugene's scouts report the Ottoman army's exact position. They're crossing the river at Zenta. The Sultan himself is overseeing the operation personally. 80,000 soldiers, thousands of supply wagons, hundreds of artillery pieces, camp followers, family, the entire future of the campaign. And they're using a single pontoon bridge, one bridge for 80,000 people. Eugene's chief of staff looks at the map, studies the positions carefully, measures distances with calipers. Sir, they'll be vulnerable for days. 2 days minimum to complete the crossing. Maybe 3, we can harass them, hit them while they're strung out. Cavalry raids, capture supplies, maybe an artillery piece or 2, make them deploy extra guards, slow them down, standard tactics, sensible tactics, the kind of thing every European commander would do. Eugene doesn't respond immediately. He's calculating something his officers don't see yet. His mind is running through scenarios, distances, timing, march speeds, Ottoman defensive doctrine, reaction times. The Ottoman army is split. Half is already across on the eastern bank, maybe 40,000 soldiers, setting up defensive positions, digging entrenchments, positioning artillery. The other half is still on the western bank. Another 40,000. Plus all the supplies, the wagons, the camp followers. And the Sultan is with the eastern half, commanding from the rear as Ottoman tradition dictates, as doctrine requires. If Eugene attacks now, right now, while they're divided, the Ottomans have 3 basic options. Option 1, the eastern half, but the bridge is narrow. One bridge, that takes hours, creates massive bottlenecks, chaos, confusion. Option 2, the western half rushes across to join the eastern half. Same problem. Bottleneck, panic, people trampling each other trying to cross. Option 3, they try to fight on. Coordinate across a river. Maintain communication across a choke point under fire. All 3 options are disasters, tactical nightmares. The bridge becomes a death trap. Coordination becomes impossible. Numbers become irrelevant. But here's what makes Eugene's decision. To make this work, to exploit this opportunity before it vanishes, he has to march his entire army 40 miles. 40 miles through the night, in less than 24 hours, arrive in perfect formation, not scattered and disorganized from the march, deploy into attacking positions, and attack without scouting the positions properly, without preparing siege equipment or defensive fallback positions. The timing has to be perfect, absolutely perfect. If the Ottomans finish crossing before he arrives, the opportunity vanishes completely. They consolidate on one bank, bring their full strength to bear. Eugene faces 80,000. He loses. If his army arrives exhausted and scattered from the forced march, unable to maintain formation, they'll be slaughtered. Ottoman cavalry will cut them to pieces. Discipline breaks down. Units can't support each other. It becomes a massacre. He loses. The window is narrow, maybe 12. Eugene looks at his officers, men who have served with him for years, men who trust him, men who think he's brilliant, men who also think he might be insane. We march immediately, full army, full speed. We attack tomorrow at the river. The room goes completely silent. Officers exchange glances. Someone has to say it, has to voice the concern everyone is thinking. His chief of staff, carefully, diplomatically, sir, the men will be exhausted. We'll have no time to scout positions properly, no time to rest, no time to set up proper supply lines. We'll be attacking superior numbers with tired troops in unknown terrain. Eugene's response is cold. Matter of fact. The voice of absolute certainty. The Ottomans won't expect us. They think we're days away. They think we're defensive, predictable. Surprise is worth more than rest, more than perfect scouting, more than favorable numbers. We march now, September 10th, afternoon through the night to September. Infantry in the center column, cavalry on the flanks, artillery pieces being pulled by exhausted horses, moving as fast as humanly possible. The pace is brutal, punishing. Men stumble, some fall. Unit commanders and sergeants drag them back to their feet. Keep moving, no stragglers. If you fall, you die. A young infantryman, Johann, 19 years old, from a farm near Graz, carries his musket and 50 rounds of ammunition. His pack weighs 40 pounds. His feet are bleeding inside his boots. He's been marching for 8 hours straight. The man next to him, an older veteran named Klaus, keeps him going. One foot in front of the other. Don't think about the destination, just the next step. The cavalry has it different but not easier. Their horses are suffering. Cavalry mounts aren't built for long-distance forced marches, they're built for short, explosive charges. But they keep moving. Riders walk beside their horses to save the animal's strength. They'll need that strength tomorrow, if there is a tomorrow. Artillery crews have the worst of it. Each cannon weighs over 1,000 pounds, pulled by teams of horses that are wearing out. The crews walk beside them, ready to push when the horses falter. They've lost 2 cannons already. Wheels broke. No time to fix them. Leave them. Keep moving. Eugene rides up and down the column constantly. His horse is fresh. He changes mounts every few hours, keeping the pace. His presence drives them forward. Soldiers see him, know he's awake, know he's marching with them. If the general doesn't sleep, they don't sleep. He checks on unit commanders. How are your men? Can they fight when we arrive? Who needs to be replaced? Making sure nobody falls too far behind. Making sure units stay cohesive. A scattered army is a dead army. Around midnight, some units start to fragment. Exhaustion. Men can't keep the pace. Officers make hard decisions. Leave the weakest behind. They'll catch up later, maybe. Probably not. The army can't slow down, not for anyone. By 2 a.m., a third of the army is in varying states of exhaustion. But they're still moving, still together, still organized. That's what matters. Eugene doesn't need them fresh. He needs them there, present, able to hold a musket and fire in formation. His officers are terrified. This violates every principle they were taught, every tactical manual, every lesson from military academies across Europe. You don't force march into battle. You don't attack when tired. You don't attack superior numbers without proper reconnaissance. You don't attack without artillery support in position. You don't attack without fallback positions prepared. But Eugene knows something they don't. Something 14 years taught him. He knows the Ottomans intimately, better than they know themselves. He knows they're cautious when setting up river crossings. Methodic. They'll position the bulk of their forces on the eastern bank, the side facing Austria, the side where threats come from. The western bank is safe. Or so they think. They'll assume they have days to complete the crossing safely. They always take days. Doctrine requires it. And most importantly, he knows Ottoman reconnaissance is complacent, lazy. They don't expect a major Austrian force this deep into their operational area. They think Eugene is days away, fortifying cities, preparing defensive positions, waiting, being European. By dawn on September 11th, the Austrian army approaches Zenta. Austrians hoped, gambled everything on. The Ottomans are still crossing, still divided, still vulnerable. The opportunity remains. The window is still open. Eugene gives immediate orders for deployment. His army will approach from the northwest, using the rolling hills for cover. Hidden by terrain until the last possible moment, they'll form up in attacking position behind the final. Deploy artillery, position cavalry. Then strike before the Ottomans can react properly. One of his cavalry commanders asks the question everyone wants to ask. The obvious question. Sir, what if they see us coming? What if they stop the crossing and consolidate on one bank? Eugene doesn't hesitate, doesn't even pause. Then we attack anyway, and we make them regret not finishing. Here's what the Ottomans are doing wrong at this exact moment, and they don't even know it yet. Don't suspect, don't imagine. Sultan Mustafa II is on the eastern bank with roughly 40,000 soldiers. He's set up a massive defensive camp. Tents arranged in perfect geometric patterns following Ottoman military tradition. Artillery positioned to cover all approaches from the west. Cavalry ready to counter any raids, infantry entrenched behind wooden palisades. Engineers have worked all night building proper fortifications. He's defending against an attack. The Austrians are days away as far as he knows. His scouts report small raiding parties, nothing serious, nothing requiring a change in plans. On the western bank, another 40,000 soldiers wait to cross. Thousands of wagons loaded with supplies. Camp followers, families, merchants. The entire logistics train of a major invasion force. They're relaxed, cooking breakfast, some are sleeping, waiting their turn for the bridge. The crossing is tedious but safe, boring, no danger. The pontoon bridge is an engineering marvel but a tactical bottleneck. It can handle maybe 200 people at a time, single file, walking carefully. At this rate, the full crossing will take another 2 days minimum. Maybe 3 if they're careful. The Sultan isn't concerned. Why rush? Safety is more important than speed. But the Sultan isn't worried. His confidence is absolute. Why would he worry? His scouts report no major Austrian forces within 50 miles. Small raiding parties maybe. Nothing serious. His eastern bank position is impregnable. Properly fortified. Artillery covering all approaches. His western bank forces are numerous enough to handle any raiders who might appear. More than enough. What he doesn't know, what his scouts haven't reported yet because they haven't seen it yet, is that Eugene's entire army is 3 miles away, hidden by rolling 50,000 soldiers moving into position at this very moment, silent, disciplined, deadly, getting ready to attack. And they're not planning to raid, not planning to harass, not planning to capture a few wagons. They're planning to annihilate. September 11th, afternoon, around 3 p.m, the sun is high, hot. The Austrian army, and suddenly, instantly, they're visible. 50,000 soldiers in full battle formation appearing as if from nowhere. Infantry in the center, arranged in precise rectangular blocks. Cavalry on both flanks ready to charge. Artillery being positioned rapidly, crews working frantically to prepare for firing. The Ottomans and panic. Complete instant total panic. Messengers race to alert the Sultan on the eastern bank. Riders galloping toward the bridge at full speed, shouting, pointing. Commanders start screaming orders, contradicting each other, creating more confusion. Some units try to form defensive lines. Others rush toward the bridge. Wagons start moving, creating traffic jams. Civilians run in random directions. Nobody knows what to do. Nobody was prepared for this. Chaos. Instant, complete, devastating chaos. Eugene doesn't give them time to think, to organize, to react properly, to remember their training. His artillery, those are out of effective range. He targets the bridge, the choke point. Cannonballs slam into the wooden structure and the water around it. Some miss, some hit, some kill people trying to cross. The point isn't destruction yet. The point is terror, making people panic, making the bridge even more, making the bottleneck worse. Then his cavalry charges, not in a single massive wave like traditional shock tactics dictate, in coordinated strikes all along the Ottoman western flank. Multiple points of attack simultaneously, hitting supply trains, setting fires, command posts, more confusion, more fear. The Ottoman forces on the western bank are caught completely unprepared. They outnumber the Austrian cavalry significantly, 3-1, maybe 4-1 in places. But numbers don't matter. They're not in formation. They're not ready, not organized. Half of them are trying to cross the bridge to safety. The other half is trying to form defensive lines while moving wagons out of the way, while putting out fires, while responding to contradictory orders from panicking commanders. Eugene's cavalry tears through them, not trying to hold ground, not trying to occupy positions, just disrupting, destroying, creating more chaos. They hit hard, withdraw before Ottoman forces can respond properly, regroup behind Austrian lines, hit again from a different angle. Over and over. And then the Austrian infantry advances, disciplined, methodical, unstoppable, a machine. Because this is where the battle transforms from a fight into a massacre. The Ottoman forces on the western bank, those who aren't already panicking, realize they can't hold their positions. There's too many Austrians, too coordinated, Too disciplined, too organized. They're too disorganized to mount effective resistance. Too confused. They need to retreat across the bridge to the safety of the Sultan's defensive position on the eastern bank. Join the rest of the army. Consolidate. Fight properly from fortified positions. But the bridge is already packed. Thousands of people trying to cross at once. Soldiers who abandon their positions. Civilians fleeing the Austrian advance. Horses. Wagons somehow. The pontoons are swaying dangerously under the weight. Wooden planks creaking and cracking. Some sections start to break apart. Ropes strain. Engineers scream warnings that nobody hears. People start pushing, shoving, fighting each other for space on the bridge. Officers lose control. Can't maintain discipline. Civilians scream. Children cry. Pack animals panic and rear up. Everyone trying to cross at the same time. All social order collapses. And the Austrians keep advancing, keep firing, keep killing, methodically. The distance closes, musket range, then close range, then point. On the eastern bank, Sultan Mustafa II stands watching his army being destroyed. And there's absolutely nothing he can do about it. He's trapped by his own defensive doctrine. If he sends forces back across the bridge to help the western bank, they'll just add to the chaos. Make the bottleneck worse. More people trying to cross, more confusion. If he tries to attack the Austrians from the eastern bank, he has to cross the river somehow. The bridge is packed, unusable. His forces would have to swim. And the Austrians control the western approach now. Their artillery would tear apart any crossing attempt. Their musket fire would kill anyone in the water. He's trapped. His entire army is trapped. And Eugene knows it. Planned for exactly this. 14 years of study crystallized into 90 minutes of perfect execution. Austrian artillery shifts targets systematically. From the bridge to the massed Ottoman forces on. Cannonballs rip through packed formations. Every shot hits multiple targets. 5 men, 10 men, 20. The Ottomans are so densely packed they can't avoid fire, can't spread out, can't take cover. Nowhere to go except toward the bridge, toward the death trap. The cavalry keeps cutting off retreat routes, herding Ottoman forces toward the river like sheep, capturing artillery pieces, destroying supply wagons that might be useful, killing officers to destroy command structure, turning an organized army into a desperate mob that only wants to survive. And still the Austrian infantry advances, like a machine, firing, reloading, stepping forward, firing, reloading, stepping forward. No one breaks formation, no one pursues individual targets, no one stops to loot, just steady, mechanical, relentless killing. By 4 p.m., 1 hour into the battle, the western bank is a nightmare beyond description. The bridge collapses partially. Multiple sections give way simultaneously. Hundreds. Their armor, the heavy mail and plate they wear for protection, drags them down. They drown in seconds, screaming, thrashing, arms reaching up, then gone. Ottoman soldiers throw away weapons, heavy armor, anything that weighs them down, anything that might let them swim. They try to swim across the river. The current is stronger than it looks. Most drown anyway. The few who make it to the eastern bank arrive exhausted, defenseless, traumatized, useless for combat. By 5 p.m., 90 minutes after the attack began, the western bank is a charnel house. Bodies everywhere, thousands, piled on top of each other. The river runs red with blood. The Austrian advance doesn't slow, doesn't stop, doesn't pause, just keeps pushing forward. The battle lasts 90 minutes total. When it's over, when the last Ottoman soldier on the western bank either dies or surrenders or drowns, the account is another 10,000 captured or drowned. The Sultan's personal treasure, the war chest meant to finance months of campaigning, is captured intact. Hundreds of artillery pieces, supply wagons with food for 80,000 men, tents, equipment, everything. Austrian casualties, less than It's an execution. A massacre, a demonstration of what happens when tactical perfection meets enemy incompetence. Sultan Mustafa II barely escapes with his life. He abandons the eastern bank camp completely, leaves behind thousands of soldiers who still haven't crossed, flees east with a small cavalry escort of his, riding hard, not stopping, not looking back. The Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, ruler of millions, running from the battlefield like a common soldier fleeing defeat. The psychological damage is worse than the military losses, worse than the 30,000 dead. The Sultan personally commanded this invasion. He brought the largest army the empire could muster. He was going to restore Ottoman glory, reconquer lost territories, make Europe fear them again, and he watched it get destroyed in 90 minutes, helpless, unable to affect the outcome, unable to save his men, unable to do anything except watch and then run. Ottoman morale shatters completely. The empire that has been expanding for 4 centuries, that conquered Constantinople and ended the Byzantine Empire, that besieged Vienna twice, that dominated the Mediterranean, that threatened all of Europe, suddenly looks vulnerable, beatable, mortal, not invincible after all. The Ottomans made 3 fatal mistakes at Zenta. First, they assumed the Austrians wouldn't attack. 14 years of defensive European warfare created complacency, overconfidence. Nobody had launched a major offensive against an Ottoman field army in years. The Europeans always waited, always defended, always avoided decisive engagement. It was predictable, safe, boring. Second, they basic military doctrine, elementary tactics taught to every officer. Never divide your forces in enemy territory. But they assumed they had time, assumed they were safe, assumed Eugene was days away, assumed wrong. Third, they underestimated Eugene of Savoy. They saw a young general, relatively inexperienced at supreme command. The small, weak soldier that Louis XIV dismissed as physically unsuitable. Not the brilliant tactician who had studied them obsessively for 14 years, who knew their doctrine better than most of their own commanders, who had been waiting patiently for this exact moment, who saw opportunities that others couldn't imagine. The result? The worst Ottoman military disaster in decades. Worse than the Second Siege of Vienna in 1683. More decisive, more complete, more psychologically devastating, more strategically significant. News of Zenta spreads across Europe in waves. First, the riders carry, then merchants along trade routes, spreading rumors and partial accounts. Then diplomats writing urgent letters to their governments. The information travels at the speed of horses, weeks to reach London, Paris, Madrid, Rome. The reaction follows a predictable pattern across Christian Europe. First, stunned disbelief. This can't be true. An army of 80,000 destroyed in 9... Impossible. Exaggerated. A rumor. Propaganda. Armies don't get annihilated that quickly. Not real armies, not the Ottomans. Then, as confirmations arrive from multiple independent sources, as eyewitness accounts reach capitals, acceptance. It happened. It's real. Eugene of Savoy actually did it. In Te Deums sung in every church. Thanksgiving services. The emperor declares a week of celebration. Eugene is promoted, given estates, made a national hero, the man who saved Austria. In Rome, Pope Innocent XII orders celebrations across Catholic Europe. The Ottomans are beatable. Their expansion can be stopped. He calls for continued support for the war against the Turks. In France, the reaction is complicated, bitter. Louis XIV receives the news in stony silence. The man he rejected has won the greatest victory of the decade, maybe the century. His courtiers don't mention Eugene's name in his presence. The wound is too fresh, too obvious. The Sun King doesn't like being reminded of his mistakes. In London, King William III studies the reports carefully. He's impressed, starts reconsidering his strategic position. If Austria can defeat the Ottomans this decisively, maybe they can spare troops for the war against France. Maybe new alliances are possible. In Poland, King Augustus II celebrates. Polish forces have been fighting the Ottomans for decades. This victory opens new possibilities, new territories to reclaim. In Russia, Peter the Great pays very close attention. He's planning his own campaigns against the Ottomans. Zenta shows it's possible. The Ottomans aren't invincible. Their armies can be destroyed if you attack aggressively. Use European tactics, don't fight defensively. Even in Constantinople, the Ottoman capital news arrives within 3 weeks. The Sultan's messenger brings the devastating report to the Divan, the Ottoman Council. Horror. Denial. How could this happen? How could 80,000 soldiers be destroyed so quickly? Questions, investigations, blame. The Sultan's authority is damaged severely, court politics become vicious. Everyone trying to avoid responsibility, Eugene becomes a legend overnight. The French reject who destroyed an empire's army, the small, weak soldier the man who proved that genius trumps size, that determination trumps breeding, that studying your enemy for 14 years creates opportunities that others can't see, that patience and perfect timing can defeat superior numbers. Austria gains massive prestige. The Holy Roman Empire is suddenly the dominant. Other nations take notice, recalculate their diplomatic positions. This isn't the defensive, reactive Austria they've known for decades. This is something new, aggressive, dangerous, unpredictable. The Ottomans know they can't continue the war, not after Zenta. The psychological blow is too severe, the army's morale too broken. 2 years later, in 1699, diplomats gather at Karlowitz, a small town on the Ottoman-Habsburg border. The location is chosen carefully. Neutral ground, symbolic. The negotiations begin in January. Representatives from Austria, the Ottoman Empire, everyone wants something. The negotiations are brutal for the Ottoman Empire, humiliating in ways the empire hasn't experienced in centuries. The Austrian envoy, Count Schlick, arrives with explicit instructions from Emperor Leopold I. Hungary, Transylvania, Croatia, Slavonia. The Ottoman envoy Rami Mehmed Pasha sits across the table knowing he has no good options, no leverage, no ability to refuse. He tries to negotiate, offers compromises, proposes shared control of territories, suggests tribute arrangements, payment for Austrian withdrawal. The Austrians refuse. No compromise. Rami Mehmed Pasha sends urgent messages to Constantinople, begs for instructions, authority to make concessions. The Sultan's response is delayed. The Divan is paralyzed by internal politics. Nobody wants to make the final decision. Nobody wants to be responsible for giving away the empire's European territories. Finally, in September 16, the Ottoman Empire cedes massive territories. Austria gains all of Hungary except the Banat of Temeswar, Transylvania. Croatia except for a small coastal region, Slavonia. Territories the Ottomans controlled for over a century. Centuries of conquest lost in one document. Poland gains Podolia and Russia gains access to Azov and the Black Sea coast. The treaty marks the first time in Ottoman history that the empire signs a treaty ceding territory without receiving anything in return. No payment, no concessions, just loss, pure, total loss. The psychological impact is severe. The Ottoman Empire has been expanding for 400 years. Since the 1300s, they've grown continuously. Every war ended with them gaining something. Even defeats resulted in minor territorial concessions, not massive losses. Karlowitz is different. This is retreat, acknowledgement of weakness, admission that the days of expansion are over. The Ottoman Empire's century, not through attrition over decades. In 90 minutes at a river crossing, one battle, one decision, one devastating attack. Zenta establishes Eugene of Savoy as one of history's great military minds, proves his genius conclusively. He'll fight for another 20 years. The War of Spanish Succession begins. Eugene leads Austrian forces against France and Spain. The war will last 13 years. Eugene will win most of the major battles, the Battle of Blenheim. Eugene and the English General Marlborough combine their armies. They face a French-Bavarian force of 60,000. The Allies have. The battle lasts all day. By evening, the French have lost 30,000 men. Blenheim saves Vienna from a French siege, establishes the Eugene-Marlborough partnership as the most effective military command team in Europe. The relief of Turin. Eugene marches his army through the Alps. Nobody expects this. It's September. But Eugene forces his way through, arrives at Turin where a French army is besieging the city. The French have 44,000 soldiers. Eugene has 30,000. He attacks anyway, destroys the French siege army, drives France out of Italy completely. The campaign becomes legendary. Military academies study it for centuries. The Battle of Oudenarde. Eugene and Marlborough defeat another French army, 85,000 French against 90,000 allies. The French lose 15,000 men, the Allies lose 3,000. Another devastating victory. Petrovaradin, the Ottomans try again, another massive invasion, another attempt to reclaim lost territory. He uses the same aggressive tactics that worked at Zenta. Attacks while the Ottomans are crossing the Danube, destroys their army. 20,000 Ottoman casualties, Austrian losses minimal. The Ottomans lose their Grand Vizier, their army, their confidence, the siege of Belgrade. Belgrade has never fallen to European siege in 200 years. Eugene takes it in 6 weeks. The conquest shocks the Ottoman Empire, opens the Balkans to Austrian expansion. Eugene becomes one of the most feared and respected commanders in Europe. His tactical innovations are studied in military academies. His aggressive style is copied by younger generals. His campaigns are analyzed by military theorists. He's won everywhere, against everyone. French, Spanish, Bavarian, Ottoman. He's unbeatable. But Zenta remains his masterpiece. The battle that defined his career, the perfect execution of aggressive warfare, the perfect exploitation of enemy mistakes, the perfect demonstration that numbers mean. That 14 years of dedicated study creates opportunities that others miss completely. That rejection can fuel greatness. That Louis XIV snow created the general who would haunt French nightmares for decades. Louis XIV dies in 1715 after 72 years of rule. Built Versailles, expanded France, dominated European politics, but he knows by then that he created his own worst enemy, the general who defeated French ambitions repeatedly, the soldier he deemed too weak who became unstoppable, the reject who became a legend. On his deathbed, surrounded by priests and courtiers, about the small young man he turned away? Probably. The regret must be immense. Eugene lives until 1736, dies at age 72 in Vienna. Wealthy, honored, celebrated. His funeral is attended by thousands. The emperor himself is a pallbearer. His body is interred in one man, one rejection, one decision, one devastating attack. That's the Battle of Zenta. September 11, 1697, the day Prince